to be looking at how to plant green beans in raised beds. They're nutritious, they're easy to grow, and I'll also show you a tip on how to have an endless harvest all summer. And if this is your first time here, my name is Marlene. Welcome to Marlene's How To's, my home and garden channel. So this is what our veggie bed was looking like before we did the raised bed. We had some beans, we had a couple, tomatoes and other plants in there. And then we decided to make the raised bed and also level out our backyard, my husband and I. And I'll link this video at the end that shows you how we did that to give you some great ideas and tips on that. So first we're going to go ahead and get started with our beans. And typically I get mine from the dollar store. And they're typically 4 for $1. You really can't beat that, guys. And they're fairly good quality. I use them year after year. And it always works out just fine for me. I'm just going to go in and cut it and get my beans out. In this case, there's one that was broken, but that typically doesn't happen. And it's just one when you think of the price for it. And a quick tip that I do, if I'm later in the season to get them going quickly, is to just have them soak in water either overnight or for 2 days, but no longer. Because if you keep them in there for too long, then, you could start to have them rotting. And I do leave a few back for a later time. So you can see them, they're rocking away there in the water. They're looking quite healthy. They're sunken to the bottom, so you know that they're pretty much good to go. So we just leave them for that time frame. In this case, I did it for 2 days. And then I went ahead and got them out. Got my strainer, my little mixing bowl, and I strained them off. And you can see that they have basically doubled in size. They're looking a lot more plump, and that's because they have absorbed all of that water, which is what we want. This is basically speeding up the process as opposed to having them just sitting in the earth, for a longer time. And if you look close, you can see that that one is cracked, which is good. That means that, it's about to open up and start growing. So then the next step is to go ahead and have them planted. That's what we did. And I'll show you, later in the video exactly how I do them, But basically, just to show you here, I put 3 to 1 hole. Some people, they'll put 1, but there's a reason why I do mine that way. So I put them in, and of course you want to make sure that you have rich soil, composted soil. You can add manure to it, or just make sure that you have a fairly good quality garden soil, and just pat it in. And then you go ahead and get them watered like I'm doing here. That's always such a fun part for me, watering my stuff. And then over here, now this is what it looks like. You can see we have a small tomato plant there. We have marigold and a few other things, which will be in that same video that I'm going to be linking at the end for you. So about 10 to 14 days, this is kind of like what they look like here. They've come up and they're looking quite healthy, nice green color. So I'm always quite pleased about that. At this point, you can basically go in and just give them a little bit of support because they don't grow too large, to be honest, like high, usually 12 inches or less, but they still need some support because when the beans come in, they're kind of heavy. So even if it's something like this right here, like a little stake that you can, find around your home, or you can buy them at the garden center, like different types, or you can use trellises, you can use longer poles, you can use a mesh and run it along and hook it in place. There's so many different options, but it doesn't have to be anything large because, like I said, they don't go to be very, high off the ground. And so this is them here 5 weeks after. You can see how they're looking here. And you'll have different levels of pollination. So some will be a little bit larger than others, which is natural. Some will get a little bit more attention depending on how the blossoms are positioned with the insects that come in. So you can see how healthy those are looking right there. And then we have some more over here. So of course, it's always really nice to come in and see the harvest coming in and just watch them grow. And they grow very, very fast, these beans once they start coming out. Over here, you can see the tomato, how good it's doing. Looking very good. And you can see a couple of them inside there as well too. And these are actually big boy tomatoes that I planted. So those are going to get pretty large. And I absolutely love to slice those for my sandwiches and my salads and things like that. And then over here is a marigold companion flower. Right here, my husband, he planted some beans. I'm not sure what kind those are. Look a little unusual, but we'll see what they become. He says he's going to surprise me. And then over here now we have some that are blooming a little bit later because I planted them after. So you can see the blossoms are coming up there. And right here we have some thyme. This is another good companion plant to put in your garden because they keep, like bad pollinators away because they smell so strong. One thing I'll say though, if you're putting them in your flower bed, they can be a little bit aggressive, so don't allow them to bloom like these are blooming right here and seed, because they can spread over and take over your flower bed, which you might not want that. Also, when your herbs bloom, it means that they lose flavor, so you'll want to get them before they get to that point. So that's our thyme right there. So this is how they're looking. Another marigold down here. Just great for the pollinators to help to bring them along to help our little bean blossoms. And over here, this is a Jamaican yellow yam that my husband planted. You can see the vine running there. We have some red onions that he planted over here as well. So this is kind of like his corner of the flower bed, I guess, raised bed. And that's a malanga root right there. You can see his onions are getting red at the top, so that's looking really, really good. So very, very pleased with that. And beans, guys, they are just so good. They're nutritious. They don't cost a lot. And the good thing about them is that they help to add nitrogen to the soil, which most plants are not able to do. Like, legumes, beans and peas, they're able to do that. So it's also adding nutrients to your soil. So it's just so much to love about this plant. Easy to manage, it doesn't take a lot of space too much. This right here is my salvia. It bloomed already, so I had to trim them back, and it's coming up again to start blossoming again. And we left a little spot right there, which we're going to talk about in just a little further down in the video. But now it's time for our harvest. So we're going to go in and get them taken out. Some people, they like their beans to be a little bit more mature than this, but this is the perfect time for them for me right here. I like when they look just like that. They're tender, they're flavorful, and just juicy. And of course, if you get some rain in your area, they'll come up even faster than that. We have a couple of little insect bites right here, but we're going to go ahead and treat that further down in the video as well. And one thing to note, guys, is that 6 weeks is typically the time frame that it takes for your beans to mature so you can get a harvest. It may be a little bit quicker in some places, and if the soil is cold when you start it out, it may take just a wee bit longer. But the standard time frame is 6 weeks for you to get your beans. And if you're liking this video so far, be sure to share and give me a thumbs up. Share it with a friend so they can also get this information. And to note also that typically I reap beans 3 times from the same plants every summer. So that's why I love them so much. You really can't beat it. And be sure to clean your trimmers with rubbing alcohol so you don't have diseases spreading from one plant to another. So the first, reaping that we did here. And then as time goes by, you'll see that you get a lot more as more of them come in. And it's just such fun to see all of this. So if you like gardening and flowers, even half as much as I do hope that you will hit the subscribe button and tap on the notification bell twice so you'll never miss an upload. Plus, it also allows you to go in and see past videos that I did as well. I wanted to say a special thanks to Minister Carol Moore for her super thanks with my last video. Certainly appreciate it, and it definitely helps to keep me going. And now we're going to go ahead and take a look at these garden pests. So right here, this looks like a cabbage fly. They typically go after cabbages, but they will come after other plants in your garden as well. That's the only thing that you have to deal with sometimes with the peas and beans. And this is what I use. It's insecticidal super soap, and I'll link it at in the description box for you below. And of course, I always make sure I have my gloves on. And you follow the directions. You spray them when the weather is cool, like a cooler time of the day. You don't want to put this in the middle of the day on your plants. Too much shock for them. You just go ahead and spray generously along. And once I start spraying one, thing, I'm going to spray pretty much everything that's in there. What you want to bear in mind is that there are directions as to when you can reap your harvest. You can see my tomatoes right there. They're not ready to be reaped yet, so it's okay for me to spray the plant right now, because typically anywhere from 4 to 6 or 7 days, depending on what it is, you'll want to wait before you reap your harvest. So I picked my beans first, and then I went in. Now look here, guys. See that? That's actually one of the pests that I was talking about. That's a little caterpillar right there. So of course I sprayed him off because we don't want him to spread all over in the garden and just, And they do it so quickly too. 2 days might pass and you're so surprised to see how much damage was done to your garden. And over this side by the thyme, these held up a little bit better. They kept them away, so you're not going to see as many bites on these, which is good. So, more power to our thyme right there. Dual purpose. So they've all been sprayed down, and, we're pretty much good to go with that there. So another way, apart from the fact that they give you crops, you can reap every 6 weeks. I plant them in succession, so I'll go in and save a little spot here or there and just plant some newer ones in. So when the other ones are blooming and then they've bloomed, and giving you your beans, then these will come up, and so you'll always have something, giving you some beans time and time again. And I kind of stagger them. I put 3 in a hole just to support each other, a little space between them, and just stagger them so that way they're kind of like companions to each other almost. And not too many together so that, you have any spread of disease. Because when you put them one by one, just single ones in each hole, you have to go back in and thin them out. In this case, you don't have to because there is enough space between them. So that's the method that I use, and it works very well for me. And then I just went and I water them down like I'm doing right here. And as I always say, try to water your plants either early in the morning or in the evening. If you are going to do it in the evening, don't wet the leaves because you may have, like certain kind of fungal diseases coming through. So, beans are just so good for you. It's so encouraging. It's a great project for kids. They just love to see the fruits of their labor, and they don't have to do too much with it. So I hope that this gave you some great ideas for your garden, and I hope you're enjoying your summer, and hope you enjoy planting your beans. Thank you so much for watching, and I certainly hope to see you in the next video. Take care.